As wInevitable here with part 2 of First Night. We are here in replay number 3, right after blue team scores a terror, and there's a reason we've stopped here. At this point, there are a couple questions that have to be answered to really figure out where to go. Number one, it's going to take, this isn't a question, but first of all, it's going to take some time for the terror to grow. It's not ready right away. And so you don't have to immediately go back. There's a little bit of time to channel it. It's not a rush to necessarily go get the terror. There are, of course, in this case, you can see all merc camps are up. And also there is the, this merc camp here too, but there's also the horror. This is still alive. Now, the thing you want to check, and this goes for all nights, more so subsequent nights than the first night, and that is because there's only 180 seeds per night, right? So if you've gotten a terror in first night, then the enemy team can't get one. Just from simple math, the most they could possibly get, if you have 100 or more, the most they can get is 80. So in this case, this guy isn't that big of a deal. He's 60 seeds right here, and there's 18, and then if there's 60 in here, right, so that's 78. So there's 2. So blue team has 102. They have 2 extra seeds. This would get them to 62. It's not enough for either team to get a terror. And so while seeds are important, and certainly I'd prefer to have this than not have it, because in second night then you would be at 62 seeds or 78 seeds, depending on who takes this and how many they take. It does put you in a good position later on. This is more of a long-term investment, this guy right here. You don't have to take him immediately. Now, so what happened? But there are cases where in other nights the other team is very close to 100. They're less than 60 away, and taking this horror will give them a terror. In a lot of cases, you want to try to prevent that. And I would strongly suggest preventing this before worrying about pulling your own. You have time, and especially early in the game, when death timers are low, you could even take a death right away and still be up, respawned in time to take the terror. Because of course there is a window in which you have to pull it. If you don't pull the terror within that window, as you'll see here, basically, you lose the seeds that you gathered. And so the idea is, once you've gotten the terror, you've gotten it for yourself, you have to see if you can prevent the enemy team from getting one. That's one thing, okay, to think of. That's number one. Count the seeds on the map, count how many they have, and if you can prevent them from getting one, and you're able to, you have enough people up and they're full health, mana, whatever they need, whatever you need to get it done, heroics and things too, then do it. That's obviously, I think, the way you should play. You should prevent the other team from getting one. Then you're in a supreme position, having one while they don't. Okay? And that's exactly what blue team does here. They rotate top. Now, this doesn't prevent red team from getting a terror, of course. But this is the idea that this is what I'm talking about. Say this was enough. In this case, blue's doing it. It's more of a long-term investment, like I was saying. But you don't want to put yourself in a bad position. We do take one death here. And it looks like they had one guy go back. This is, I believe is that the Murd? No, hold on, who is that? I can't. Rhaegar, Murd, and Sitches. Okay, so that's the Zeratul inside the terror. It's this guy. So he's back here, or yeah, he's inside the plant. And now, in doing so, they end up in like a bad spot here. They do take a death. Blue team kind of puts themselves in a bad position. This is kind of fruitless, That's 3 deaths now, and they didn't get anything out of it. So you don't want to put yourself in a situation like that. But obviously, if you could have positioned, and you didn't even need this guy to go back and pull the terror. Obviously, it's on a timer, and I didn't show that to you guys. Let's show that real quick. The timer here. Before he pulls it, it's ready. 45-second window. You have that long to come here and channel. It takes a couple of seconds to channel and pick up the suit. We'll watch the Zeratul do it. You can see he's channeling it. 1, 2, it's like, I don't know if it's 3, 4 seconds. Pretty quick, but it does take a little bit of time. Now, he could have waited. Honestly, I think if they had all gone up here, if the Zeratul had come in as well, then quite possibly this would have been a different story up here. Instead, it was a 4v3, and it didn't go that well. This was not necessary. It doesn't prevent them from getting a terror either. They didn't even get any of the seeds. So the idea is there. It can be a good idea, can be a good thing to do, but you want to execute it better. And obviously, I would not split forces like this, not early on. Or say they had wanted to send the Zeratul back. They needed to send him back to get the terror. What the other heroes could have done, instead of going directly in, is they could have postured a little bit, not hard engaged, not run in guns blazing and then gotten, capped and died. They could have stayed on the outskirts, more likely up here so they have an escape. Even here, though, would have been better. And then waited, maybe gotten some range damage in. Of course, they are melee, so it would have had been the Tychus to do that, with maybe his Grenadier's Q a little bit on the red team. Kind of like basically let the other team know you're there and you're watching and scare them away, versus actually running in and hard engage until give the Terror enough time, the Zeratul in the Terror enough time to get here and reinforce you, and then you can go in as a team. What they did is they sent one guy back and they sent 4 up here, and it just didn't turn out that well. Now, obviously, red team hasn't taken the siege yet. They're not going to get a Terror from this, and the Terror is here in time. Death timers are short, so the other heroes will be up pretty fast. It looks like Zeratul is actually going to take a fall. I believe, yeah. But this is still giving red enough time to get seeds. And obviously, it could have been executed. You get the idea there, right? So don't split your forces up unless you really have to. If you're going to send somebody back for the Terror, then everybody else shouldn't be going YOLO solo, Bilbo Baggins McSwaggins into the fray, okay? You can posture a little bit, but wait for your Terror to get there. Otherwise, you have 45 seconds to pull the Terror. Go ahead, go up here as a group of 5, and jump the other team, and then go back and pull a Terror. That's point 1, and that all has to do with if there are still seeds left on the table. If there aren't, this situation doesn't exist. You can pull, and then everything we're talking about is a moot point. The other thing to consider is that before this Terror was pulled, obviously right now, are there any mark camps on the map? There are no mark camps, right? Do you see this? And for anyone that's not aware of this, there are, whenever you have a Terror up, as long as the Terror's up, there will be no mark camps. They disappear. With one caveat we'll get to. But before this, the camps were up and were active. And both teams could have chosen to take them. Red team, obviously, they were down on seeds. They wanted to get some. Now, it didn't get them a Terror. It wasn't the most essential. It's more of a long-term investment. But that's the choice they made. They went for those seeds. The other alternative is to take camps. And what most veteran players know is that you can actually aggro a camp. By aggro, I mean you can go and attack a camp, and as long as the camp is up and they're attacking back at you, they're shooting back, and you're in combat range, they can see you, that camp will not disappear when a Garden Terror is pulled. So if you ever have a Garden Terror on the map and you can still see a camp, that means somebody is there fighting that camp. And if you can't see one of your friends, your allies doing it, then it's got to be the other team. And so that's one big thing to note. And that's another opportunity to jump people. If you see the enemy team taking a camp and you're in a position to respond in time, you can certainly jump them. If you have the numbers advantage or the health, the HP advantage, the level advantage, whatever, you can take a fight and win, then you can do that and you can steal the camp from them. That's something you have to think too once the Terror has been pulled. But before the Terror has been pulled, and this is what we talked about at the end of part 1, you have to think about how to use the market camps in all of this. We saw in the first replay the Sonya, they were taking all of the camps, right? They rotated from this camp on up to here and to here, and they took the camps before they took the large horrors, before they took these guys. And so they kind of used them preemptively to put pressure on the enemy team to kind of give themselves an opening to take the horrors. The other possibility is to take the camps after you've taken all of the seeds. All of the seeds are down. Then, what's left? The camps are left. And so you can go get the camps and then use them to put pressure on the lanes. And obviously right now, if you look at the map, there's a blue Terror pushing mid lane. It looks like there's a Tychus postured top here, and then everybody else is respawning and making their way out. And so if there had been a camp up and pushing top lane, there'd be nobody to defend, for example. Now, that being said, the Merc camps are stronger with a Terror than they are against the Terror. You can see the plant here, the W. This is the W ability from a plant. Those minions just died. They die to that. Mercenaries will die just the same. And so if you have a Terror, you can use the W to clear up a Merc push quite easily. You drop one W, and then you move forward. You don't have to stay around bashing the minions. And at the same time, if you have a Terror and the enemy team doesn't, then mercenary camps are going to be very strong because they'll push a lane. Say they could push like this lane if you took the Bruiser camp, while your Terror goes mid lane, and then you could even send 4 heroes up top lane. You could be pushing 3 lanes at once. And so remember that mercenaries are really good with the Terror. Against the Terror, they can buy you time, but they're not as good because that W can clear them up. Now, it does take time for a terror to walk to a lane and drop a W. And so that's why I say they're better with a terror than against a terror, but they're still viable. Now, the other thing that you want to note too is they didn't hard engage on the fort here. Blue team's actually rotating. They're trying to prolong this. Just like with the Dragon Knight, you can see there's 8 seconds left. You want to get the most out of it, getting as many W's out as you can, because they do so much damage to both minions but also to structures. And that's why both of these turrets here are gone. And this fort is at half health. So ideally, you're going to posture. You could see he was dropping W's inside the gate. You can even drop a W like on your model and then stand on top of it. It makes it very hard for the enemy team to attack it. And then the Q, the Spore Queen's Curse, so this guy right here, turns the enemies into plants, right? Like you see, the Abathur is now a plant. You can put those down on somebody who is, like Abathur was symbioting somebody, so he couldn't move in time. There's a short delay before they're turned into a plant, before the heroes are polymorphed. And you can do that. You could put it on a tank that's sieged, like a siege tank. Anybody that's been stunned or rooted, you throw them down on them. And also in choke points, like between these buildings here, right here. You saw the Terror put one here when he walked up to top lane for anybody that was following. This is another choke point. The gate right here in between the two towers is another good choke point. And so you can see how wide it is there. You really want to use it in choke points and on any heroes that are immobile to get the most usefulness out of it, to get the most utility. And so the Terror is down. You'll have that window before the next night cycle spawns, and so the camps are back up, and you can see all the camps are up. Now, obviously, this is a great time to take merc camps to relieve pressures on lanes. You can push a fort if it's exposed. All teams have 5 heroes up, so they have to play relatively safe. You can see blue is posturing. They're going to steal a camp down here while red takes the hard camp. So, that's a little bit more generic to multiple maps. Taking them after the terror's down. Obviously, if the camps are up, you can take them, and if you're in a position to, go ahead. They will push lanes and take some pressure off of your buildings for you. But the big thing is when you use them beforehand. Obviously, you have that 45-second window on a terror. You don't have to start taking. Let's go ahead and jump back to the other replay and take a look at how the terror was used in that one. You don't have to take the terror right away. Just remember that. You have 45 seconds. You can run and jump the enemy team. If they're in a bad position, you can take all of your camps. You have 3 camps on this map, on your side of the map, and they each push a different lane. So you can have 3 lanes pushing at once. You have what I call like a trifecta. If you do that, basically, blue team would have this camp pushing top lane, this camp would push mid, and this camp would push hard. And that's just camps on your side of the map. If you're in a position where you can take the enemy camps, even better. Because this hard camp is just going to walk right here. This easy camp is going to come right down here and then be on these buildings. And these guys are going to walk down here and then, start assaulting this from the back and then move up here. So, fast forward a little bit because it is that, unfortunately I cannot have multiple games open at once and just flip from one replay to the other, unfortunately. I do have to fast forward through these. But those are the things to think of. And this is... If I selected the right replay, this does have Estonia and Ajania, so I'm pretty sure this is the right one. You're going to see them at 2 minutes, the mercenary camp spawn, which is 30 seconds after night. So, again, the posturing we talked about in part 1. Taking the enemy small camps when you can, and then when you get an opportunity, you want to take one of the large ones. But you don't want to put yourself in a really bad position to do that. And of course, if the enemy team takes a big one, a large share, then you can take the opposite one, or you can jump them. So this guy's gonna fall, and I think it was like 4 or 5 minutes. It was like 6.5 minutes before. No, it was after 6 minutes that the terror was actually finally pulled. So we're gonna fast forward to that on ×8 here. You can see now this is how the Sonya wants to, the red team. They want to take the camps here early to put pressure on the lanes. Isn't bad. You used to be able to do it even earlier. You used to be able to take camps at 1:40. They've reduced it to 2 minutes now. So there's a little bit of a delay there on taking camps. But as you play this map more and more, you'll get a feel for when you can take the camps, when you can't. Obviously, Bribe on the Murky makes it really easy to steal this camp on any hero. Rather, there's a lot of camps on this map. Bribe's great here. It's really good to be able to steal things. Even if you just bribe 2 knights and then you kill the other 2 very fast. it certainly works. And so now Red's they've taken 4 camps like we talked about earlier, but Blue does a great job of clearing them. There's barely any pressure put on this lane down here, none put on the mid lane, and then Murky's been going to work on this top lane the entire time. So a bit of damage up here, but Vala's going to be able to clear up everything before it gets to the fort. And so we're still fast forwarding near the march of the Murlocs going off there. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else we wanted to cover. We're just going to look at how the terror is used here. Once the inevitable team fight goes down here in the mid lane that we know is coming. So actually it did already happen. So blue team has taken bottom. They immediately rotate top. And now you look at this. Nova goes bot here. We didn't talk about this the first time through. Illidan is coming mid. I think if Red had immediately gone top, this would have been one of those times you want to prevent the enemy team from getting 100 seeds. We talked about it a little bit earlier. If Red could have come up here, 11 seeds is a bit. It's 1/6, almost 1/5 of the seeds in this guy. That's a substantial amount. And if you play really smart, you're even in levels almost here. It's like a half level difference. And especially with the Murky, who's really good at getting seeds out of this thing because he has the safety bubble. So there's certainly a case where Red could have postured top to prevent Blue from getting a tear. It's something you want to do in a competitive game. But Blue has a smooth rotation. They get up here quickly, while Red takes a camp in the bottom lane. And so what happens? Terror is spawning. Okay. Now how do the teams react? There are 3 camps up. That easy camp and these 2 camps. Red just took the easy camp here in the bottom right corner. They immediately come for this hard camp. And as we talked about, I think we talked about this in part 1, precision strike going down. They obliterate that camp. They're in and they're out because this is risky. With all of the heroes on the map, and it's just 2 heroes down here, it's very risky to be in a position like that. I think Illidan's going to make it out okay. And they don't, you notice the Barbarian, the Sonya, and the Nova do not go for this camp. That would have been asking for it. They're actually able to get a nice, looks like they're going to get a kill here on Tychus. Yep, a nice play. Tychus takes a fall. And so, the Terror's been pulled. Blue team chose not to get any of their own camps. And Red had the opportunity to take this one, I think. They didn't. They did steal. They took this one pretty fast, and then they stole this one. So Red team making use of that timing window to get the camps. But here's the problem, and we talked about this a little bit earlier, that Merc camps are really good with the Terra, but weak against one. I'm not saying they're bad. I'm not saying you don't want to take them against the Terror. It's just watch beats here. I'm hoping, I haven't watched this far into the replay, so I hope he drops a W here. We'll see. He should drop one like right in the middle. It would clear. Oh, he actually did. What am I? Of course he did. It's right here. It's hiding behind the tower. And that's another thing. You really want to camouflage these because any good team fighting against the Terror is going, and that's something we need to talk about too, is focus this. Whenever this is dropped, it prevents buildings from shooting, and it does a ton of damage. You want to focus this thing down whenever you can, and when you're using the Terror, you want to protect this. Even if you put it behind your model so that it's hard to target, put it behind a building. Like there, I was talking, so I kind of wasn't paying attention, but it's almost harder to see because it's right next to it. It's not out in the middle of nowhere. But I think he could have placed it, honestly, a little bit better if he'd placed it down here. It would have gotten these 2, and he wouldn't have had to burn a second W. Remember, it's a large radius. You'll actually, when you press W, unless you're using quick cast, with just the normal quick cast, you'll be able to actually see the radius and target where you want to put the W here down on the map. And so I think he could have actually cleared this lane up pretty well with just a single W. He drops 2, but you can see with that W, just look at how fast everything dies. And now he's going in. He's going to tank some shots here, which is, along with the Dragon Knight, not really something you want to do. But in a case like this, you've got 4 red heroes mid. There's a 1v1 top, right? And then you've got 2 blue heroes defending mid with Tychus actually just respawning. So the idea is Red's pushing mid, but you're going to get a split push with the Terror. You don't always have to push S5 with the Terror. You can split push. A lot of times it's better to split push. You can see the W going down, and immediately none of these buildings shoot anymore. The minion wave's going to take damage, and all of these buildings are going to go. Watch the full duration here of the W. I think they're going to get a little bit off. Yeah, the Nova Snipe comes in there a little bit, or the auto attack. And you can see it almost killed the fountain. It got the first tower, almost gets the second tower. And so that's the power of the W, both on minion waves and on buildings. Ideally, you never tank a single tower shot as a Terror. You can, obviously, have a large health pool, but you You want to play it so you take as few shots from buildings and fortifications as possible. And then using your Q, as we talked about before, in choke points. Now he moves up to top lane. There's a lot of cycling. And the reason the terrors cycle around, or rotate rather, through these lanes so much is to keep the enemy team off balance. If you stay in one location, they can move to you, they react to where you are, and focus you down. By moving like this, the terror also has, of course, the E, the ability to sprint, which increases your move speed. It's really good for moving between lanes. And when you do this, the other team has to rotate to bottom lane to kill the flower. Then they have to follow you back to top lane, and by the time you get to mid lane rather, not top lane, you have another flower to put down. Okay, so that's one another tactic that you can use with the terror. You put the Qs and choke points. You want to make this hard to kill. Ideally, you don't want to tank tower shots. And of course, you can rotate between lanes using your sprint on cooldown to keep moving between lanes, keep the enemy team following you, reacting to you, and prevent them from getting through your health pool. You can see there's, still 30 seconds left on this bad boy. And of course, if the other team were to focus him down, they could kill him faster than that. But now he's actually going to go in here, and you can obviously see the red team slow to react. It's just one hero here, and with the Sport Queen's Curse, actually able to polymorph the Sonya and do some damage to the fortification. Should be another W. There goes the W, and look at the positioning on that W. Look at that. That is good positioning because, it's hidden pretty much. A lot of heroes in the thick of things aren't going to even see that. And also then, how do they attack it? How do you actually click on that? If you're doing, I can't do it here because I'm in a replay, but a move like onto that, it's going to be very hard to actually hit it when it's behind the terror. Really, really solid positioning for Beats there on that. And now he is staying around here. They are choosing to team fight. Heroics going down on both sides. But with the W out, this fort doesn't do anything. Even though it's got 3/4 ammo right now, and then it's down. Just like that. That's the power of the terror, and why you really want to prevent enemy teams from getting them whenever possible and get one for yourself. One other thing we talked about with the sprint, in that you can rotate between lanes. Another tactic is you can use it. When you sprint, you'll have a faster move speed than other heroes on foot, and you can actually chase people down and kill them because you're going to do a big chunk of damage in melee. And so if I'm not rotating between lanes with my sprint, ideally what I'm looking for is a hero who's in a little bit out of position and low in hit points, very low on the health, and then I will sprint and then whack, whack, whack. Get 2-3 good auto attacks in there, and you can possibly get a kill, especially if you zone them with your Q, the Sport Queen's Curse. So that's some ideas about how to use it. We don't want to get too much more into this. It's already we're over 20 minutes, so I think we covered it mostly. Yeah, let's just recap things. Obviously, night starts at 1:30, right? Okay, and you have to be ready in a good position physically, and also at a good spot, health and mana-wise, for the first 1:30, that first night cycle. Okay, so always be cognizant of that when you're playing on this map. Have a plan. Be planning ahead. Don't overextend and get in a bad spot. You still see even veteran players make that mistake. You just get into the thick of things. You want to kill somebody. You're going ham, and then you're in a bad spot for the seeds. So be in a good spot for the first night cycle, positionally and health and mana-wise. 2, ideally you want to get at least 40 seeds from the small camps to make your life easier. So if you can, you want to steal theirs first, then take yours. But also you don't want to necessarily suicide in. But sometimes, yeah, suiciding is the thing to do to get some extra seeds, just enough for a terror. Early game, the XP and the death timer is not going to hurt as much if it gets you a terror. Then, after the small camps are all down, you want to watch and see, what's the deal with the large horrors. If the enemy team starts to take one, you can react and attack them, or you can take the other one in response. You also want to find a good spot where you and your team can take a terror, or take a horror, to get those seeds, because you don't want to let the enemy team get both of them. So that's getting the seeds. Then once you've gotten seeds, or if you want to prevent the enemy team from getting a terror if possible, you also have to fit market camps into it. You could try the approach you saw in this game where they took market camps early. It didn't seem to work out that well with the new timings, because the night starts 1:30, whereas the camps don't spawn until 2 minutes. So it's a little hard to put pressure on with the timings working in that fashion. Instead, you really want to fall back to the camps after all of the seeds have been taken, especially if you have a terror. Remember, camps are stronger with terrors than they are against them. If you have a terror, there are certain things to think about when using it. Obviously, the W, as we saw, clears up minion waves and does a lot of damage to forts. The Q is great at polymorphing enemy heroes and is solid when used in choke points or some kind of rooted, stunned hero. Then you have Sprint, which helps you cycle. You can cycle, rotate. I keep saying cycling. Rotate between lanes to get more of your Ws. You want to maximize the lifespan of the terror, and you don't want to tank tower shots or unnecessary hero damage. You can use the E, the Sprint, to rotate to get that done. You can also just kite. You can come up and drop a W, fall back a little bit, maybe melee a hero if there's like a team fight going on, and then run back into the fray when the cooldown's up and drop another W. And of course you can also use Sprint to chase enemy heroes down because you are faster than them. Okay, so I think that's the basics for this one for first night, looking at this match. We're going to go ahead and there's a couple more, and there's Sky Temple is the new map coming out. So we'll look at that one after we get some playtime on it and see how everything goes. It sounds like a really fun map. Looking forward to playing with Thrall. But I hope this helps you guys a little bit, especially the newer, younger players that are just getting into Heroes of the Storm. That's the whole goal with this series. Not trying to break any new ground. I'm not necessarily going to be like coming up with something that somebody has never heard of before, something brand new. It's more of just looking at some solid tactics for the maps, some things that are refined and are being used a lot in competitive play, and kind of building on that and helping people elevate their gameplay up, especially the newer players and people just getting into Heroes. Maybe it's the first MOBA, maybe not. But want to help everybody understand things and get a better grasp and have a lot of fun. So thanks for watching, guys. I'm wInevitable. Obviously, if you like the video, feel free to leave comments below. Any feedback's welcome. I take some requests, trying to get some guides done for people. And if you want more content, if you're interested in this kind of thing, go ahead and subscribe. That always helps me out. And I'll be coming out with more stuff soon. So thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it. And I'll see you all soon. See you on the Nexus.